This year we are celebrating 50 years of Waterloo, but it's also 45 years since ABBA released their sixth studio album Voulez-Vous. ABBA worked hard on this album for over 1 year and they skipped as many recordings as never before. It could have almost turned into a completely different album. Let's talk about the fascinating recording process, the outtakes and songs that could have been. Let's dive into the evolution of Voulez-Vous. Hey, so next time I want all of us to come together and talk about the new documentary ABBA Against the Odds. I will give you my first impressions, but for today, let's do a new video based on an old idea from the archive. ABBA's recording sessions for Voulez-Vous started in March 1978. The album was released in April 1979. On the way, many fascinating and curious things happened, and ABBA basically could have gone a different road and create an entirely different album. And it all goes back to what they've done before. Their previous work, ABBA the Album, was released in December 1977. The evolution of ABBA's music from this period gives many indications where ABBA could have almost gone with their follow-up project in 1978. Even some of the unreleased melodies and styles from this time were picked up during the sessions for Voulez-Vous. Most intriguingly, Björn and Benny toyed with the idea of expanding the mini-musical idea from 1977. They wanted to create something where the songs were weaved together beyond a regular studio album. In December 1977, they said it would be fun to try a slightly larger, cohesive format, a musical, for example. Eventually, this idea seemed to have disappeared quickly, and they actually focused to not strive away too far from the established ABBA sound and the current international pop scene. However, the road to Voulez-Vous has many leftovers and styles where we have to wonder what could have been. The recording sessions for Voulez-Vous started in March 1978. For half a year, ABBA recorded 5 songs. Only one of those songs would eventually be included on the Voulez-Vous album, Lovers Live a Little Longer. The first song from these sessions remained unreleased at the time. It was called Dr. Klaus von Hamlet, a rocky instrumental number. ABBA continued to return to this piece of music over and over again. 5 months later, it was re-recorded as a stripped-down acoustic version with marvelous lyrics and beautiful vocals by Agneta and Frida, provisionally titled Hamlet 3, where they look back and sing about a romance from those happy autumn days. Both versions were eventually released as snippets in 1994 as part of ABBA Undeleted. The vocal version Hamlet 3 has become one of the biggest fan favorites. To me, it's so unfortunate that ABBA never seemed to be satisfied enough with this recording to release it in full. It's one of my big personal highlights. But they kept working on the song and returned to the melody several times. In 1980, parts of the chorus were used on another song that would remain unreleased, Burning My Bridges. In the same year, Benny played Hamlet 3 during soundcheck for ABBA's concert in Japan. In 1981, Benny played an accordion version of the song during the filming of the TV special Dick Cavett Meets ABBA. Unfortunately, this performance was also never released. In 1987, Benny picked up the song in this new arrangement and recorded it for his first solo album. Almost 1 decade after ABBA's version, this song has finally embraced the roots it came from as a Swedish folk piece. So how much is this recording and the evolution an indication for what could have been if it wasn't for the album that eventually became Voulez-Vous? At the time, Björn and Benny felt that they could not turn this folk composition into a satisfying pop song. It would have been a fascinating new direction on ABBA's follow-up album to the album. But it wasn't meant to be. Another unreleased song from the first 6 months into the recording process was Free as a Bumble Bee. Carl Magnus Palm described the song as a McCartney-esque melody. He compares Björn and Benny's demo vocals with a breathy, beachy style. Björn and Benny are very fond of the composition, but at the time may have felt again that it just wasn't a song for that period in pop music. As with Hamlet 3, This song was also revisited again and again. In fact, it was already a progress from an earlier ABBA song. The chorus comes from the previous year when ABBA performed an exclusive song on their world tour to Europe and Australia, a song called I Am an A. In 1984, the chorus was picked up for Björn and Benny's musical song I Know Him So Well. In 2012, Benny used the verse melody of Free as a Bumble Bee and recorded it as an instrumental soundtrack music for the documentary Palme. Back to those first 5 songs from the initial sessions for Voulez-Vous, the 2 remaining recordings were also not included on the album. They were used for single releases only. Love Light became a single B-side, and Summer Night City was the first ABBA single at the time in over 7 months. For this song, they worked long and hard to get it right. ABBA sound engineer Michael B. Dretov remembered that they tried up to 50 mixes. In the archives, there are 11 different mixes of the song. The original introduction was cut for the single release, but used in 1979 for the live version of the song. This introduction gives another indication about the unusual and new direction that ABBA would go with these recordings. It's a dark and haunting atmosphere and leads to the actual pop song Summer Night City. After the summer of 1978 and for the rest of the year, ABBA recorded 9 more songs. Half of them would remain unreleased at the time. Just a Notion was picked up 40 years later when ABBA returned to the studio for Voyage. Again, if we take a closer look at this and some of the other outtakes, there is kind of a more traditional folk-style atmosphere to these compositions. On a recording session tape, Benny and ABBA's backing band even go on to play a blues improvisation emulating a jazz ensemble. An entirely unreleased song is a synthesizer instrumental recording and is described as a hymn-like tune. By the end of 1978, ABBA had 14 songs so far. Other bands would have probably been more than thrilled with this much genius of sounds and melodies, but Björn and Benny were just not satisfied. For the songs that would actually make it to the Voulez-Vous album, they tried out several versions, lyrics and mixes, and continued to work on them for many weeks. Very often, they even made them shorter and shorter until they were satisfied. If It Wasn't for the Nights, for instance, has at least 9 different mixes and even an entire alternate recording created in Miami, which was never released. For Chiquitita, ABBA recorded several versions, including, once again, a symphonic rock number that could have sounded something like Intermezzo No. 1, Scaramouche, or basically even the Hamlet instrumental. So all of these recordings, 14 songs so far, and the often unusual style really makes you wonder what kind of an ABBA album could have been released in 1978 as the follow-up to ABBA the album. Mixed with a familiar pop style, they dabbled in acoustic renditions, in folk, hymns, rock symphonies, and they even soaked up the ability of the synthesizer to create dramatic atmospheres. But with all our imagination and what-ifs, it's important to stress that the remaining sessions in 1979 and the eventual album that became Voulez-Vous is a marvelous and certainly unexpected part of ABBA's output with many unique and standout experiments. By January 1979, Björn and Benny were so desperate and curious that they would travel to the Bahamas to find inspiration. As far as I know, this was the first time that they deliberately traveled away from Sweden to compose songs for ABBA. They even recorded backing tracks in a studio outside of Sweden for the one and only time. The title song Voulez-Vous was recorded at the Criteria Studios in Miami, Florida. On top of that, for a change, they were even joined by guest musicians, in that case the Latin disco band Foxy. This would turn out to not be the only anomaly with this album. For the song I Have a Dream, ABBA used for the first time ever other voices next to their own, a children's choir from the International School of Stockholm. With altogether 5 more songs recorded in early 1979, ABBA now had enough material to put together the 10-track album to their satisfaction. Contrary to general reception, this album is much more and much different than just following the international pop and disco scene from the time. This album is pure ABBA by making it their very own. The pop songs are lifted with beautiful string arrangements, and the album has constant reminders of ABBA's folk roots and their curiosity in other genres, including baroque elements and even going back in time with nods to the 60s. Surrounding and following the release of Voulez-Vous, ABBA continued to be as busy and creative as ever. In early 1979, Agnetha released a compilation album for which she wrote a brand new song. Her English demo version, The Queen of Hearts, remained unreleased at the time. Around the same period, Frida went to Spain to act in her first feature film. In May 1979, Benny produced an album for the Norwegian singer Finn Kalvik. Agnetha and Frida provided backing vocals. In the summer, ABBA recorded a special birthday song for their now manager Jörel. And they even tracked more songs that remain unreleased to this day. Lady Bird, a piano instrumental with strings, is described as a beautiful ballad. This composition is compared in feel to songs like One Man, One Woman or the later Slipping Through My Fingers. Another instrumental was And the Wind Cries Mary, an original composition by Björn and Benny, which has nothing to do with a same title song by Jimi Hendrix. And certainly, ABBA was busy preparing for their upcoming world tour in 1979. This final concert tour, extended to 1980 for Japan, perfectly captures the essence of the Voulez-Vous album and even more so of ABBA's general experimentation in the studio at the time, their musical evolution and variety of styles, melodies and sounds. They wrote and recorded many brand new songs for the concerts, including the unreleased Under My Sun, Rubberball Man, and songs that would be picked for the concerts, another brand new Agnetha composition, I'm Still Alive, and Björn and Benny's compositions Gimme Gimme Gimme, A Man After Midnight, and The Way Old Friends Do. They incorporated dramatic elements and build-ups into the concerts, like the gorgeous synthesizer opening of a Swedish folk song, the haunting synth introduction to Summer Night City, and the rocking arrangement of Does Your Mother Know, revealing glimpses into ABBA's creativity from those studio sessions of this period. What do you think of the sessions leading to Voulez-Vous? What do you think could an alternate album have been like, collecting all those songs and outtakes from 1978 and 79? And what do you think of the eventual album, Voulez-Vous? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments below about this special time in ABBA's career. And next time, we are going to talk and discuss the ABBA documentary Against the Odds with my first impressions. Alright, until then, hello!